about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Beardsley and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Beardsley here with you. This week we're talking about the RNC in CLE. Glad you can join us. Got a great show for you here. Join us online at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. You always check us out live Tuesdays 10 p.m. on Spreaker and any of our rebroadcast outlets, including Red Nation Rising Radio, WJHC 107.5, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and a ton of other places. Glad you can join us. We got a great show lined up for you. Jason Beardsley, a gentleman who spoke at the RNC last night being the first night of RNC, will join us to talk about his RNC experiences and also his experiences on the battlefield, his advocacy for veterans, and a whole host of other issues. We even might get a little inside baseball about conversations backstage at the RNC. But before we get to that, I have a confession to make. I have not been watching the Republican National Convention as much as other people have. I know this may come as a shock. I'm a wonk. I'm a political nerd. I love, parliamentary procedure and all this other stuff that's going on. But even without watching it, I probably know better than most what's going on. And it's one of those times where I hate to break it to you folks. There's a script, and the script is followed through regardless of whatever you may be seeing on the floor. When you run a convention, that's your house. That's the Republicans' house. That's the GOP's house. And I'm sorry, the minds have been made up. Donald Trump is going to be the nominee from the day you walked in till the day you're going to walk out until the general election. I hate to break this to a lot of my never Trump friends because they actually thought that there was going to be a fair process, that there was going to be a grassroots groundswell that was going to start in the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee was going to bring a change of rules to the General Committee, and if that didn't happen, the General Committee was going to rise up, and the General Committee was going to change the rules recommendations from the Rules Committee, and all this stuff that was a fantasy to begin with. It's time to either shape up or ship out, Republicans. You've had your time of dreaming about the candidate you wish you had. For many of you out there, your candidate lost. I'm one of you. My candidate lost many times over. I was a Rick Perry guy. I believe in Rick Perry to this day that he would be an amazing commander-in-chief. Can't debate a lick. Can't speak in front of large crowds. But the man is a proven commodity when it comes to results-oriented governance. I was a Rick Perry guy. In fact, I love that he was on stage. I love that Marcus Luttrell was on stage. And the close relationship that Governor Perry and him have. Love all that. But I didn't get my way there. Ted Cruz, another one of my guys after Rick Perry was the first one out. I think Ted Cruz is absolutely brilliant. I think Ted Cruz has the know-how and the political courage to do what needs to be done. But voters didn't agree with me. Voters chose Donald Trump. For better, for worse, whatever your opinion is about the man, he is now not a presumptive nominee, not a front runner. He is the nominee. And it's time to get behind the Republican nominee. All you never Trump people all of the people in the so-called grassroots out there to stop Donald Trump for whatever reason it may be. And listen, he's not the perfect candidate. We'll get into that in a second. But if you were out there thinking that something was going to happen at this convention, then you are an idealist of the highest order. And I salute your idealism. But now it's time to take your head out of the clouds and the sunshine and, lollipops and rainbows everywhere. And it's time to get to work. Because although you may think Donald Trump is bad, Hillary Clinton is much, much worse. We're talking about a guy that you may not want to have drinks with versus a woman who's a known liar. A woman who's a known national security threat. A woman who has been involved in more scandals than her scandal-ridden husband. It's time to choose between bad or worse. I don't think Donald Trump's that bad, by the way. I think Donald Trump is going to be the purging fire that politics needs. I think Donald Trump's going to pull no punches because he's not going to be the guy who's going to play nice in the sandbox with everybody. He's proven that through a generation of him building the Trump brand. He doesn't care if you like him or not. He thinks you're going to vote for him because he is the only real choice out there compared to Hillary Clinton. I tend to agree with that. But when it comes down to it, if you are a grassroots person, he's all you got left if you want to win in November. Now, if you want to be part of that purging fire of the GOP and just burn it all down, I can respect that. I can understand if you want to go with a Gary Johnson, or if you want to throw away your vote and vote for Gene Beardsley, which is Bearddelli, by the way. You can do that. I have no problem with you doing that. It's your vote. You can do whatever you want with it. But if you want to stop Hillary Clinton, and I think that every Republican conservative, every stripe, wants to stop Hillary Clinton, then I think the only way to stop her now is to vote for Donald Trump. Listen, I understand the idea of holding your nose and going to the ballot box and voting for someone you halfway like. I've done it. I held my nose and I voted for John McCain. I held my nose and I voted for Mitt Romney because the alternative, as we have seen over the past 7-8 years, has been dreadful. Has been irresponsibly governing this nation. So, I mean, the words I can use to describe the Obama administration and the Obama era in this nation is not going to be very nice and is not really friendly for radio. So I held my nose and I voted for John McCain. I didn't necessarily agree with everything John McCain stood for. I didn't necessarily agree with everything that Mitt Romney stood for. I thought that they were both decent human beings. I thought that they would be the best alternative for getting some of the agenda I wanted passed in government. The whole idea of you can either go down Niagara Falls or you can go down the winding river that leads to Niagara Falls 10 years from now. That's kind of how I felt about those two candidates. And now the tables are turned. A lot of those establishment types, they're feeling, they're feeling burnt, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean Bernie Sanders. They're feeling like I felt last election cycle. They're feeling like I felt 2 election cycles ago. That their guy doesn't represent them. But they're not playing nice like they expected us to, and us being grassroots conservatives who went for the big establishment guy. And with the tables being turned now, that they think that they're still driving the car. I'm sorry, guys, you're in the back seat for now this cycle. We're taking the wheel, trying something different. And by we, I'm not necessarily a Trump guy, but he's my nominee. And I'm going to make sure that Hillary Clinton loses in November. That's how I feel about it. By the way, hope you're enjoying the show so far. Like I said, Jason Beardsley coming on the show later on. Going to be talking about his business venture as well, the Underground Movement, which I'm going to tell you all about. It's phenomenal. I love this apparel company that Jason has started that mixes history with great-looking apparel. And we're going to be talking to him about his experience at RNC and all that. But also I want to bring your attention to the fact that we have a chat room going on live during every broadcast Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Spreaker that you can go to at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Click on the Listen Live button, and you'll get right into the chat room. You create a little screen name. You can log in through your Facebook or your Twitters, and you can join us. And I'm looking at some of the comments in the chat right now, agreeing with me that Rick Perry was a solid guy, and that people still like him. How could you not like Rick Perry, by the way? Absolutely think that he is great. His wife Anita is a wonderful lady, and what they did for Marcus Luttrell and his brother, unbelievable. And you should really look up that story, folks. Another comment saying that he was a solid Cruz guy until he dropped. Then he went to Trump. Kasich was hanging in for the free food, and just another Dem wearing a Republican tag. And you kind of see the sour grapes there with a lot of people not attending this convention. John Kasich not attending the convention in his own state. What does that say for, first of all, his respect for the party? Because it is the Republican Party's convention. And secondly, what does it say for the will of the voters? That John Kasich doesn't care that a majority of voters, the most to ever turn out for a Republican primary cycle ever, went with Donald Trump and didn't go with him? What does that say, really? And the chat room just answered me. It says that they're big crybabies. Jeb ! Bush could be thrown in there as well, as the chat room says. But those guys that were calling big crybabies were the same people that were running the party and losing for the last 2 cycles. The definition of insanity, folks, is banging your head against the wall and expecting a different result. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a change. That's not what we have right now. Is actual change. Whether you believe it's change for the worse or change for the better, I'll respect your opinion. But this is what change looks like, folks, in the Republican Party. It's a very interesting election cycle, folks. It's going to get more interesting as we go along, because it's not really an election where favorability is going to come into play. There are staunch Trump supporters, and they're never going to change. There are staunch Hillary supporters, and they're never going to change. And then there's everybody in the middle who's going to be thinking who's bad and who's worse. I'm one of those guys that's thinking bad or worse. Trump's bad. Yeah, I get it. He's not a polished politician. His wife apparently lifts speeches from Michelle Obama. We'll get to that in a second. Ridiculousness there. And yeah, you know what? He's not one of my guys that I thought about when I was thinking about who I would want to back for my nominee for president. Initially, I was telling you guys over and over again, I wanted somebody with executive experience, and I wanted somebody who didn't have a career in Washington. And Donald Trump fulfills those 2 criteria for me. Is he also a little off the wall and not your conventional politician? Yes. And that appeals in a lot of ways. It also is unappealing in a lot of ways. There are bound to be mistakes along the way. There are bound to be flubs like we've seen. But the one thing I always respected about Donald Trump is that he has blazed his own trail. He is his own man, and he's doing it his way, much the way Frank Sinatra would want him to do it, in trying to become the next president of the United States. I know as an attorney, Donald Trump may not be the most small government guy out there, but I know that with him, I have the best chance of getting another conservative justice on the Supreme Court. I know with Hillary, there is no chance. Not even a snowball's chance in some really hot places. That's not going to happen. With Donald Trump, it may happen. Again, I'm not guaranteed anything in this life, but if I would be a betting man, the odds would be more likely that I would get a conservative justice on the Supreme Court from Donald Trump than I would from Hillary Clinton. That's a big sway for me as an attorney of where I'm going to vote. Because people don't realize the Supreme Court is at stake for a generation now, with vacancies to be filled now and in the future. To me, that's a big deal. Also, I kind of like my presidents to not give away government secrets and expose top secret information. That's just me. I don't see Donald Trump doing that. I see Hillary Clinton doing it and lying about it. Despite what Director Comey said. That happened. I don't expect Donald Trump to leave soldiers under fire without support.